Hello and a warm welcome from Germany to our next webinar, vadis Forms. A warm welcome from the middle of Germany and to all new attendees, first time joining PIT's webinar. I'd like to inform you that you are able to see the GoToWebinar panel, and please feel free to use the chat functionality in the bottom of this panel if any questions are raised during the web sessions, because you're mute during all the time, and whenever you have a question or give some commands to one of those topics, feel free. At the end of the webinar, we have time enough to discuss the open questions and give feedback to every node which comes up. Today I'd like to give you some expectations and some results we get during our forms modernization projects to different kind of resolutions and solutions in a kind of modernization of forms application to a brand new architecture or brand new world. And we have a roundup and see what are the obstacles and what are choices and opportunities during these modernization steps. So when you're new to our webinar, you may not familiar with all our key indicators of our company. So PIT is on the market for during 18 years all over the world. We are located in 3 different countries. The headquarters is located in Germany, in Stuttgart, and we have an additional location in Germany where I'm from. It's in Bielefeld, and we have a big daughter company in the US market, the PITS LLC, and in the UK we also available. And we work together with a couple of partners all over the world to have the opportunity to support our projects and the customer projects very nearby and on-site. So we work together with partners. The main concept and the main idea behind PITS and what we are set up with our product PITSCon is to cover all aspects during the software development lifecycle. And what we see is, even through the age of digital transformation, the complexity of the software development is raised and it's getting more and more complex. And we believe that these complexity could only cover with supporting by a tool. And that is what we try to set up with our PITSCon tool, with all our knowledge going into the new tool. It's more or less a persistent knowledge tool and helps you to cover all aspects from your software development lifecycle. So that is the main reason why we set up the tool and support every modernization step from Forms. And Forms is the part we would like to discuss about today. And we see a lot of customers running application in Oracle Forms, and they ask themselves, what is the next step? Should I wait for the next Oracle Forms release? Am I happy with the actual functionalities of Oracle Forms 12c running in a WebLogic server environment, or should I think about moving to any other architecture? So if you see the life cycle from Forms in the last years, there are ongoing enhancements and ongoing improvements in the Oracle Forms environment. So a couple of changes coming up with the latest release, Oracle 12c, with the release 12.2. And we are in very tight contact with the Oracle product development team and with Michael Ferrante, and I know, and we discussed it during his presentation last year in Germany of the German Oracle user group, that there are plans for the next release of Forms, and there are improvements in the IDE and also in the runtime environment. You have noticed that most of the browsers are de-supported the plug-in functionalities, so Oracle provides a very fast and very easy way to set up a standalone launcher running the Forms in more or less feeling like the old client-server architecture. But the only advice we could give on that case is we see a lot of projects out there starting with forms earlier than form 6i, and they are still rely on the old functionalities of 6i. They only change the infrastructure during the Oracle application server and the WebLogic server, but they don't use the new functionalities. And there are a lot out of there. And our advice is when you stay on Oracle Forms, please try to integrate all these new functionalities. That perhaps you think about new layout functionalities during the configuration of tab canvases, and you have a very big application running over 100 of Forms modules, and you are not able to integrate these new functionalities in each and every module. You can think about using PitsCon as a very straight tool for search and replace, and we provide you with a couple of scripts and ready-to-run projects, so that is what we call them, to integrate new functionalities in your existing Forms application. That belongs to BI Publisher integration, single sign-on integration, and even new functionalities inside the PLSQL code, like the very fancy Oracle diagnostic logging integration. So that's what we like to say to Oracle Forms right now. If you stay on Forms, it's a good decision, but please keep in mind to use the new functionalities. But today's webinar is more or less focused on what's outside the rest of the world. Where can we go with our existing Forms application? What could be a target architecture? And there are a couple of solutions in the Oracle market itself. One of those is Oracle ADF, the end-to-end Java and Enterprise Edition framework for application development. So we step into each of those solutions later on in the next slides. The second one is, if you are interested in more database-centric application development, it's Oracle Klaypex, a very strong and very straightforward tool for those kind of application. And even in the Oracle market, you see Oracle Jet. It's a toolkit, it's a tool set based for client-side application, more or less like browser-based client-side application, based on JavaScript and cascading style sheets and HTML5. But we are also allowed to see what's going on outside the Oracle world, what are opportunities and possibilities outside the market of Oracle. So you have to consider Microsoft with the .NET framework. It's a monolithic framework with a huge brand of different languages underneath. So you can use C# or Visual Basic or whatever is inside the Microsoft language dictionary available. If you go more or less to the Java world and you see what we see in our project, we supported the first choice of open source Java framework, it's Spring. So if you like to set up a pure Java-based application, Spring could be your choice. And as a pulled to the Oracle Jet JavaScript environment, if you step to the open source, you will see Angular, AngularJS, Angular 2 as a JavaScript framework mainly based for single-page applications inside the web. So whatever you try to consider, whatever you choose as your framework, it's more or less every framework has his advantages and his strengths, but on the other side there are obstacles in each of those frameworks. So whatever your choice is, whatever you try to decide, it could be, if you like to let that your solution a very good way, but you have to follow these parts with all your passion and all your heart. So let's try to step into each of those different kind of tool set and see what are the advantages of those tool sets. ADF, if you don't know, it's more or less considered as perhaps the ancestor of Forms, as based on a very, very straightforward model view controller concept, based on industry standards like a pure Java application, but try to cover the complexity of those architecture and those underlying concepts with a couple of wizards, with a couple of visual design aspects, so that you are able to step in those new concepts, in this new world very easy when you are especially a forms-based developer. The opportunities, and that is what I consider as a strength on those framework, it protects the developer from any underlying technology change. There are a couple of changes in the last years, even if you think about the upcoming usage of facelets, or if you think about changing of PNG graphs to HTML5 representation. So there are underlying technologies as changes, but the JDeveloper and ADF encapsulate your environment, your development environment from those changes. You are still working with the same wizard. We are still working in the same windows and patterns, and you are not interested in what are the underlying generated code, more or less. So you are able to start very easy and very straightforward with a good productivity. The thing you have to consider is it's still a framework, and you have to follow the path of this framework. So if you try to find a solution on the left or right side of your road, that could be a very big obstacle. But if you are running on the framework's pattern, you are very fast and very easy on the run. And the framework itself, it's aligned with the Oracle main strategic direction. So Oracle E-Business Suite, Oracle Retail, Oracle Enterprise Manager, and a couple of other tools are based on ADF. So Oracle itself is a very big customer for ADF. On the other side, we talk about Oracle Apex. Apex is a solution as a database-centric framework. So if you are interested in showing up and insert, update, delete data from your tables, that's very easy, very fancy to set up a fast application. And it's very easy to overtake your existing knowledge for SQL and PLSQL. It's based on the same pattern. You can still run SQL, PLSQL inside your Apex application, and it's very easy to use. So the main advantages of Apex are it's cost-free whenever you have an Oracle database available. It's installed with the database, depending on the exact database version you use, but it's very easy to set up and install in an existing environment. Even if you think about a cloud-based infrastructure for your application, it's very easy to use Apex because it's part of the database cloud service. And the client components you could use are very fancy, very brand new. It's very good-looking layout you could create with Apex. So that is more or less the advantages from Oracle Apex. Oracle brings up a couple of years ago, I think it's 2 years ago, the first time they mentioned JET as a toolkit. It's not a framework in the Oracle dictionary. It's more or less a tool set, a toolkit, which bundles a couple of open source JavaScript and enhanced JavaScript libraries together to allow you to create a client-side application inside the browser running based on the technologies of JavaScript and CSS and HTML. So that is the main objective of that. And the advantages of JET are it's a complete toolkit. Whatever you try to achieve inside a browser application, you can do that with JET. You don't run around or walking around and search for different kind of JavaScript libraries in Git or in the internet. It's all bound together in the JET. It's more or less a modular architecture, so you are able to change a couple of libraries. If you are not happy with one of those libraries, you can plug in new ones or change the existing ones if you like. And it's open source. You can download it from the Oracle websites, and it's free of use, and free of develop and deploy. There are no license costs bound with the JET toolset. Inside that are libraries available for mobile features, so you can very easily set up applications running on smartphones or on tablets. So those functionalities are available, and I consider it as a very strange part. It's a very good part. There are libraries available for internationalization. So if you like to translate your application for different countries, different languages, there are libraries available to allow those. And for the accessibility, like screen readers, like specific keyboards, they are supported with JET. And last but not least, they fulfill the open source, or more or less the known part of data binding with the model view model controller concept. So it's not a Oracle specific data binding inside the toolkit. It's the known MVVM statement or pattern. And we switch to the world outside of Oracle. What are the parts we see in our projects for Forms customers? If Forms customers like to go a step ahead or away from Oracle, the first choice is Spring. Spring is an open source framework, but it's more or less supported by Pivotal. A couple of developers working for the open source Spring framework are on the payroll of Pivotal. And with Spring, you are able to set up a very straight Java-based application. No matter if you like to set up a web-based application or a client-server application, it's all put together in those Spring framework. The main advantages from Spring, it's cover all layers. If you consider JET or later on AngularJS, they only take care about the UI, browser UI, and more or less the validation inside the browser, but you have to have different kind of tool sets for the data binding. So that is not the case in the Spring framework. The Spring framework covers all layers, from the data binding to perhaps an Oracle database or other kind of databases, over the business logic till the UI representation. It's all inside the Spring framework. If you compare that to ADF, it's a very, very small footprint. So on the websites, you will find a solution with only 2 MBs on top of your application source code. You can run these framework. So you are able to have them available on very small application servers, like a very small Tomcat server for your application. It's develop any Java application, as I said before. It could be a browser-based application, but on the other side, you could also set up client-server application as well with a rich client interface. If you like to have a very quick startup, Spring Boot allows you to speed up your development. It's a couple of tool sets or frameworks set up on the Spring framework. It's a Spring Boot framework. So that is allow you a very quick startup with your new application. Spring also provides you with the very consistent transaction management. So no matter if you have a single user application or a few user application, or if you think about global distributed transaction, that is possible with these transaction management framework, so that you can rely on very consistent transaction management. And it's based on existing patterns, on existing frameworks. So it's a model view controller concept underneath. So it's nothing very, very strange, very far away from the main stream of software development. It's based on the typical patterns. Next step is more or less a pendant for Oracle JET. It's the jar of AngularJS or Angular 2. It's based on JavaScript and underlying or using HTML5 and CSS. And it's a framework for very fancy, very good-looking browser-based application. The advantages of AngularJS And that is what we cover in all our projects we based on Angular 2. It's very native and desktop oriented layout structure. So you can develop smartphones application, tablet application, and desktop application with the same set of frameworks. So it's no need for other tool sets or other binaries. You can develop them with AngularJS and Angular 2. There are a couple of code generation roundabouts. So Angular or JavaScript is typically bounded to very heavy coding. So you have to write a couple of lines of codes. But in the Angular world, there are a couple of code generation available. With those, you can generate code out of existing templates. Angular is free of your choice in the backend, even if your business logic based on Node.js or .NET or PHP sites or whatever. Angular is able to integrate in those environments. Angular provides you with the command line interface for building, testing, and deploying your application. That is very powerful, so you can easily set up, test, and build scenarios. It's free of your choice of your of your development environment. Whatever your choice is for the development tool, there are plugins available to allow you code highlighting, code checking, syntax highlighting, and whatever. So you are able to support the development process in any IDE. And that is more or less, in my opinion, the very big or the biggest strengths of Angular. It provides you with a couple of very fancy UI templates. You can generate very good-looking and high sophisticated browser applications with those templates which are available. Last but not least, let's have a look on the Microsoft environment or Microsoft development environment. Microsoft cover all layers from the database with their own database, Microsoft database, over different kind of languages in the middle tier for different kind of business logic, to the end of the presentation, even in the browser or as an executable. You can use the .NET framework with Visual Basic, with HTML5, CSS, .NET Inside, and or you can rely on C# or whatever is your choice of your application or development language. What are the advantages? Okay, you see it in the slide before. It's a full stack support from the database to the UI environment. It's very easy to develop intuitive desktop applications. So it's very easy to set up applications looking like the Office application you are using on the other hand. It's very easy for deployment. If you set up your .NET framework with the source code inside, it's very easy to set up a deployment from those source code and deploys as any other Microsoft or Office application you use. That could be considered as a strength or as a weak point, but it's a single library store. So whenever you use any other technologies to integrate, it's coming up from Microsoft, and they provide a very huge library with different kind of solutions you could integrate in your application. It's language independent, what I said before. Even if you use Visual Basic or C# or whatever, if you open your toolkit, there are over 20 different languages available you can rely on for your application development. And it's very easy to integrate security concept based on your operating system. So hand over the user who's logged in the operating system into your application. It's very easy because it's based on the same framework, so you can use that for your development or for your application. Okay, so we see a couple of different options for your existing Forms application. Each of them presented very small with only one slide and a couple of advantages. The main question is, how could I decide what is the good solution for my existing forms application? And there are a couple of topics you could consider, or you should consider during those questions. One of them is your existing knowledge. Very easy to see that topic. Is there any language available, any framework available in your company? Do you have developers with a very strange Java know-how and good, very deep Java know-how? It allows you to step into Spring or ADF as well. On the other side, your team. It's dependent on the size and the availability of your team. Is the software supported by only one developer, and that's his full-time job to support only those applications? Or do you develop your application on different countries and different locations with hundreds of developers? So if you do that, perhaps Apex could not be the best choice in those distributed development teams. Even the market for your application is relevant to consider. Is the existing forms application only in-house application running in one installation in one location, and that's it? Or you try to set up an application, perhaps try to deploy them over an application store like Google Play Store or the App Store to thousands or millions of customers. So that is depending your underlying architecture as well. And you don't put your focus only on the existing forms application. All the other applications roundabout are also of interest. It makes sense to put them all together in one existing framework and not for 6 applications using 8 different frameworks. Last but not least, the money is of interest as well. So what is your invest into your application, and how could we save the invest made in your existing forms application, even if you like to go to Spring or .NET later on? We see some good examples how we could achieve that. But one point is missing, and that is missing in all our projects we step in as first. Why not ask your existing forms application if your application itself has an attend to one of those solutions? What could we figure out of your existing forms application? What we try to set up with one of our analyzers we provide from PitsCon is, let's try to figure out a couple of attributes which decide which of the target platform is a good choice or not. And that's belonging on your forms application. Let's try to explain it by an example. And you see a picture from an analyze we made while the customer liked to go to ADF, and we analyze the existing forms application and show where are the strengths and where are the weaks in the existing forms application while you go to ADF or not. Let's try to explain that slide or this caveat graph for you. The blue rectangle is all topics belonging to the architecture. If you have perhaps validation in the front end, if you have a couple of post statements in your forms application, that is the strength to go or to stay in Oracle Forms and not to go to ADF perhaps. On the other side, there are some points, perhaps like Java beans, which could be handled much more better on the ADF side rather than in the form side. The orange part is to the features of your new platform. ADF provides you with a couple of very good graphs and representation of address data. So if we find a couple of those candidates in your forms application, we could figure out that as a strength on your way to ADF. The yellow part is considered all questions around about the layout of your use actual in the forms application. If you have perhaps a couple of multi-line items, they are represented in a much more easier way in ADF rather than in forms. So that could be a good choice to go to ADF. And last but not least, the green rectangle are attributes considered or taking care about the implementation inside your application. Do you have a couple of Boolean parameters? Do you have a secure menu? Do you have a couple of very not so easy used triggers? Then all those are part of obstacles while going to ADF rather than staying in forms. These attributes differ if you go to .NET or if you go to Spring or you go to a JET framework. So the attributes round about these circle vary or change from the target architecture you choose, but we analyze your existing application so that you know before you start with a migration to .NET or a change to .NET, oh, that is a good idea, or take care about those and those parts. That could be handled much more difficult in a .NET framework. So let's step. If you have made your choice and you know where to go, you have the question, should I start from a brand new development on a blank page with a brand new software team, or should I try to cover existing invest from my forms application and try to move them or transport them into the new world? Let's make that visible and argue with a very fancy graph from one of my friends, Stan Festely. It's very popular, and I think the message is coming very clearly over here. If you see the software development life cycles in the past, you see the UI is changing very, very often, and his estimation is around about in an average of 18 months, the UI is completely changed in an application. The change of the business logic in an existing application is around about every 4 years, and the underlying database model changed around about every 10 years. So that is his estimation he made on a couple of projects. What does it mean for your forms application and the probability of taking information out of the existing forms application? It's very easy or efficient to see that database could be taken over into the new world because the database concept is probably still the same. From the business logic, well, perhaps 50% of the business logic makes sense in the new world, but the business has changed. I have a couple of change requirements for my forms application, so I have to do a couple of new things. And the UI, and I think that is why most of the projects outside try to move away from forms. The UI is never ever overtaken into the new world, so it's made from scratch. So what does it mean for our checklist for a migration project or a project who based on a forms application and step into a new world? The first thing is I have to identify my requirements. If you think about a new development, put your hand on your hearts, around about 50, 60, 70% of the processes which are implemented in the existing forms application will run in your new environment as well. So, and the other ones are new ones. So it helps to identify the requirements from the existing forms application. Next is how we could check our data model. What are the typical adjustments inside the database model? How could we preserve the business logic to identify the diamonds inside my business logic? What are the things I should move into the new architecture? And last but not least, I will not talk about hand over the UI into the new world, but how could we speed up the development for the UI during a migration? First step is very easy. And if you perhaps know PitsCon and see one of our last webinar, we show you with the recording of use cases that PitsCon set your existing forms application into a more or less record mode, and it's very easy for us to record existing processes which are implemented in your procedure, and we start or fill up your backlog, no matter if it's based on Trello or Jira or whatever. We could set up a backlog with the existing processes from your forms application. in addition to a very detailed technical documentation. And that is very helpful for the new developers to see what are the validation, what are the underlying data model which is needed for each use case, and helps to start with the development into the new world. Second one is how we could check the database model. PITSCon also doesn't only take care about the forms source code. We also analyze and load the complete database model. And some of the open source Java frameworks and ADF as well run very brilliant if the database model is prepared very well. That means a primary key is available in every table. Perhaps the trigger is not on the database side, but more or less in the middle tier. And PITSCon allowed to identify those missing links and set up an automatic script to correct your database. So we are able to insert primary keys after you have always data inside, and we change the unique key constraints, the primary key constraints and the foreign key constraints, and so on. And we check which of the packages are stateless and which are stateful. How could we provide fragments for your middle tier to set up a stateful session, and so on. So we provide your database model. So whenever you like to start with ADF or Spring, even if you start from scratch, we are able to check and provide a very good database model for that. What about the business logic? So if you stay on Oracle database, it makes sense to move as much as possible from your existing database business logic into the database. And we have a very good feature and very powerful feature inside PITSCon to refactor the existing PLSQL code in forms and PLLs and object libraries and identify those parts and subparts which are able to move to the database. And that is very, very powerful. And we take care about reference of items, reference of global variables, and so on. So we cover very, very wide range of possibilities. And on top of that, we generate automatically web services, RESTful APIs, JSON-based REST services to allow to consume those web services wherever you want. That could be from an existing Java application. That could be even in what we do in migration to .NET. We set up web services on the Oracle database to allow .NET in the front end to consume those web services. Last but not least, what is going on in the UI, and that is a very fancy feature. I hope it's part of the next PITSCon release. Colleagues of mine working on that, and we make very good results out of that. We allow you to set up a very good mock-up tool to discuss the brand new layout with your stakeholders or key customers. What is the underlying technique, or why do we do this step? If you start a brand new application development, you have to have a discussion on the UI with your customers or stakeholders. And if you think about most of the processes for my existing Forms application will run in the new architecture as well, you see, oh, I need a couple of buttons, I need a couple of items and tables, which exist in my Forms application. But if I start scratching on these wireframes from a blank page, I have to redo these work, and then that's very boring. What we achieve is we set up the wireframes from your existing Forms application, and you can start moving, distributing items, split down a canvas into different pages, or rearrange those things, and that speed up the discussion on the UI environment. And that is based on Balsamiq as an open source wireframe tool, and it's very powerful and very easy to use. And I hope this feature is in the next PITSCon release. Perhaps we see it in a couple of beta releases, and it's very cool. What I'm told about is the experience of a couple of different projects which are go ahead, go away from Oracle Forms to other technologies. Each of those are not done by our own. It's together with a very straightforward and very powerful partnership. Perhaps we may know, an Oracle partner, and in the migration to ADF and Apex and JET, we have very good support from Oracle. We have a project together with Oracle moving one of those forms-based application, Oracle forms-based application, together with Oracle product development to ADF with our tool. And we learn a lot of very good things inside these projects. And at the end of the project, Oracle product development said the generated code looks like handmade, and we are very proud of that. If we think about Spring projects and even the cloud-based solution from Pivotal Cloud Foundry, we are using a partnership with Pivotal itself. So we are have a very good expertise in Spring frameworks over there. And for the .NET and Microsoft-based migration steps, even in the German market, we work together with a Microsoft partner, KI Performance. It's a company inside a big company, KI Group. So we work together in .NET framework, Microsoft projects together with the KI Group. So what is the roundup for my slides, and what are the main messages I'd like to hand over to you till that point? It's worth to consider the new forms as the new forms. So if you decide to stay on forms, it's a good decision. You can run as the forms as you know in the past. Even if the browser applet support is deprecated, Oracle provides you with a very good standalone launcher. It's very easy to set up. My own advice, or only advice, and at that point is take care about the new features. Use the new feature to allow more functionalities to your users and to your market. If you decide to go to any other technology, don't forget to ask your forms where to go and where are the obstacles. TIDSCon is able to know a very detailed and very much of your application. So we provide you with a couple of analyzers which helps you to decide what could be the best the best framework, the best solution for my application. And if you go to a new world, think about saving your invest. So that is not a migration like one-to-one from forms to .NET, and it looks a little more ugly. But no, we pick up the biggest part, or the part which makes sense to put the invest on and bring them into the new architecture. How could we decide what is the best solution for you? We provide a couple of assessments and analyzers roundabout. With this, we take care about your landscape, your knowledge, and of your software. If you are interested in such an assessment, please get in contact with us so we could decide what are the best next steps for you. We are using a tool to make these assessments. It's not only a workshop with a couple of questions and your answers and bring 2 or 3 consultants with a very big brain, a lot of knowledge. We're using a tool, and we load all your data, your database source code and your application source code into our software repository. And with this, we are able to have wide range of analyses, and one of those you see in the middle of the webinar, the slide for the architectural advice regarding your choice of your target platform. Based on those repository, I mentioned even AngularJS, but also a couple of Java frameworks use generation tools. It's nothing new. You may know Velocity. It's coming up from HTML development and Java development, using a template and a metadata store to generate code out of templates. We are very good in generating Apex and ADF code, but we provide a couple of templates and tools to also generate code for Spring and AngularJS as well, and at least .NET stored procedures. With these repository starting point, we are able to ensure quality during the complete migration step. So whenever there are coding convention on your side, naming convention, especially naming convention on your side, this could be done inside our repository as well. So I'm very proud of having an announcement to an event based in Germany. I don't know exactly where you're located. If it's not so far to come to Stuttgart, there will be a good choice or good idea to go to Stuttgart at the middle of May, at the 19th of May. We have a very good event with very popular speakers. Professor Tobias Kollmann and Dr. Carola Lilienthal are very famous speakers over even in the German market. So if you're interested, it's free of registration. Please use our website to take a look at those events if you're interested or one of your colleagues is interested in. So let me thank for your attendance till now. If you have any question, we are now able to take a look at the chat functionality of your GoToWebinar panel. If you like asking some question, you could do that right now. If you're interested in the slides, take a look in the next days on our YouTube channel. We upload those webinars to our regular YouTube channel. So if you miss some slide or like to hand over the presentation to one of your colleagues, feel free to do that. I'm happy to answer all your questions, even if they come in by mail. You see my email address. Don't hesitate to get in contact with me. Or please follow us on Twitter or use our blog for very deep technical entries and articles from my colleagues. So if there's no following question, the last slide is for me to thank you for the attendance and have a good day wherever you're located. And I hope you see you next time in, I believe it's in the beginning of May with one of our next webinars. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.